Okay.
One sec. All right, the recording has started.
Okay, great. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. First off, I want to apologize for any inconvenience that was caused for the webinar sign-up information. My name is Ismail Nalwala. I'm one of the principals, and I also head up the sales function at IOTAP. So we're a Microsoft partner and a SalesFUSION implementation partner. We've worked with Dynamics CRM since its early days and seen it through its current form and all the evolution that's taking place in the product. So in today's session, we're going to talk about how to leverage a marketing automation solution like SalesFUSION in your CRM platform, specifically Dynamics CRM. I'm sure most of us on the call today are using CRM to track sales, manage customer support cases, and perform some level of marketing campaigns as well. What we want to discuss today are some of the challenges in B2B selling. We will show you how you can leverage SalesFUSION within your CRM to better engage your customers and prospects, and ultimately result in more sales and happier customers, of course. And finally, we're going to walk you through the integration between the tools and show you how the two systems, SalesFUSION and Dynamics, work together with the latest version of CRM, which is now CRM 2013. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce you to Kevin Miller. Kevin is the Chief Marketing Officer at SalesFUSION. He's a marketing automation evangelist and an expert marketer himself. So Kevin, now over to you.
I appreciate that, Ishmael, and again, I want to thank everybody who has joined us today. Today's session, as Ishmael alluded to, is going to cover quite a few topics. Mostly, at least initially, I think what's important for folks to really kind of get an understanding of is why having marketing automation integrated to your CRM system has become extremely important, and whereas a few years ago you may have classified this as a kind of a nice to have, or maybe something that some of the more early adopter type companies would do, that now and going forward it's very much being seen as a must-have, and that is predominantly being driven by some simple facts in how people buy products today. So we're going to talk a little bit about the changes in the dynamics in how people purchase product, how they do their research and what products they want to purchase, etc. And I think that'll set the stage for some of the later discussions about how we go about integrating marketing and sales. So real quick, the topics for today that we're going to cover are marketing automation for CRM. What is it? What are we really doing with it? And what are some of the challenges with modern CRM and B2B selling? How marketing automation, not only as a technology, but as a business process, can dramatically improve the performance of your CRM, the adoption rate of your CRM by sales, and the overall revenue performance of your company. And we're going to go through a preview of what we classify as the embedded marketing automation tools for dynamic CRM that SalesFUSION brings to the market. We'll also leave some time at the end for questions, and how you would do that is you simply use the question function on the GoToWebinar panel. You would ask the question, and at the end we'll read the question out loud. We won't read your name. We won't read your company. We'll simply read the question and then do our best to answer it. The poll's going to pop up on the system briefly here, and let me go ahead and bring that up. We want to get a sense for what people are doing today. Are you using marketing automation today, and is that marketing automation being used with your CRM system? So we'll just leave that up for one more second here, and then we'll come back to the presentation. Okay. We're going to go ahead and close the poll right now, as I think we've got 80 to 90% of the folks online have cast their vote. So we're going to go ahead and close that and bring the PowerPoint presentation up and go through the beginning part of the agenda. So firstly, what is marketing automation, and we'll come back to the results at the end. It really is a platform-based approach to B2B marketing. There's no shortage of email tools that do landing pages, the ability to connect an email tool into Dynamics and be able to send bulk email from inside of Microsoft, etc. Marketing automation is vastly different from that. It is very much a platform that is process-centric and that is much more focused around lead management and revenue management, much more so than just the simple ability to deliver a bulk email campaign. It really comes into what really comes into play as we start to develop marketing automation strategies within a company is content delivery. I would argue that a marketing automation system without a good content plan is like a Porsche without any gasoline in it. Content really is the fuel that drives a lot of what we do in marketing automation, which is oftentimes personalized, nurture-driven campaigns that are meant to drive repetitive engagement from potential buyers. It very much combines some of the traditional marketing technologies such as email, forms, web, and social, and brings them into a single platform. And there's a lot of benefits to be derived from that, not the least of which is the data that we gather from many different channels of campaigns that we execute. Having that all in one place and then connecting that directly into your CRM system gives you some very unique and powerful opportunities to do revenue-driven analytics that a lot of companies are really starting to think about and implement a lot more frequently. Marketing automation for CRM systems. True marketing automation, what it's really doing is it's essentially integrated to CRM and it blends marketing and sales processes to assist and manage the flow of leads from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. And at the end of the day, this is never a straight line process. Marketing automation and CRM is a very cyclical, cyclical process. It should look something like the graphic that we have up on the slide right now, where you're nurturing leads up to the point where they engage with you. And they score up to a certain point, meaning that they've had a certain number of activities, a certain number of web hits, etc. At which time, if we're using, let's say, an inside sales team, we may then have inside sales engage with a prospect. And a lot of times that engagement is really trying to figure out through person-to-person contact, telephone contact, is this lead real? Is there true interest here? Can we engage with them and continue, etc.? And if not, we can then adjust and recycle those leads. But if they are ready to engage, then we can bring direct sales into play, and sales can then start to engage in them as well. Now, again, there's going to be times when we push a lead over to sales and they get to a certain point and they go stale or they go cold. We then want to recycle those leads back into the marketing system and continue to market to them. And we'll go through some very interesting examples and some graphics that will kind of explain why we need to be doing those things. But again, we need to really think about marketing automation as a process that is basically blending some of the things that we do in sales and some of the things that we do in marketing. Marketing automation is far and away the hottest technology in software as a service today. The amount of investment in the companies that play in this space, the amount of adoption that's occurring, the amount of companies that are starting to consider implementing marketing automation, it's a white-hot space for good reason. Firstly, there's a severe disconnect that still exists between marketing and sales, and that disconnect was never really fixed by CRM systems. It may have even been exacerbated a bit by CRM systems. CRM, as a mature technology now that's been in place, since the early to mid-90s, has done a fantastic job of automating everything from sales and beyond. It's done a great job of automating sales processes, client services, QA, support, etc. But very much marketing was kind of left out of the equation in CRM, mostly because the technologies that marketers use are often so vastly different from a CRM database itself. C-levels are starting to realize this. There's a lot of research being done into the revenue performance of companies that are doing a good job integrating marketing and sales, both process and technology, and it's very much getting the attention of C-levels. Second, this is an extremely important point that everybody needs to kind of get their head around. The buyers okay, the potential buyers of your product or your service are in complete control of research of what they want to buy. The social web, as we call it, and we'll kind of describe what the social web is and how that relates to traditional web, etc., is that people have access to more information online than ever before. And a significant portion of a person's top of the funnel sales cycle is being self-directed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. CRM systems support the quote-unquote old way of selling, which assumes that sales has control of the beginning of the sales cycle. And we would argue that sales very much has no control over the quote-unquote beginning of the sales cycle in today's social web environment. Marketing automation supports the new way that people buy by doing self-directed selling on the social web. And again, we'll go into more detail on these as we go through the slides. So that's the why marketing automation is getting the attention that it gets today. So talking about the challenges that we have with modern B2B sales and the CRMs that support it. Self-directed engagement by buyers is something that we all have to think about. How do people engage with us today? Well, first they have to find us on the web. And then what they're doing is they're beginning their own evaluations on the web using what we call the social web. And the social web is not Twitter. The social web is your website in combination with blogs, in combination with social sites like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all these different sites. And what the social web is essentially comprised of all the information that marketers have been working tirelessly to push out onto the internet over the last 5 to 7 years. There's so much information that's pushed out there now that in essence we've relinquished control of how that information is consumed. Or we've put all that information out there in all these new fangled networks without giving thought to how we measure the performance of this information that we're putting out. And you think about it this way, think about what a website was 10, 15 years ago. A website was nothing more than a static, flat, digital version of your pitch kit or your media kit. Today, your website should be one part of a much more interactive and engaging network of information that includes your website, your blogs, and your social. When people finally get through that evaluation stage, that kind of social web evaluation stage, and they've made a decision to engage with you, they may be 70% or more complete with their decision process. And Serious Decisions, which is an analyst firm that does a lot of research around lead to revenue, inside sales, marketing to sales integration, etc. In a lot of their research, they found that by the time a buyer talks to one of your salespeople live, up to 70% of quote-unquote their cycle is done. And a large portion of their opinions of your company have been formed at that point. And if you're in a competitive situation where you're dealing with one or two other vendors at that point, it may be very difficult to change a person's perception of your company relative to your competition based on what they've learned up to this point of time. In other words, the buyer journey has very much become self-paced. Now, what this used to look like was your salespeople used to have much more control over information dissemination. We've taken that away from sales, and we've put that out on the web. And I always ask this question if I give this style presentation to an audience, an in-person audience. I'll ask folks to raise their hand. I'll say, do you trust the internet to sell for you? Do you trust the internet to complete 70% of your sales cycle without your involvement? And nobody raises their hand. And yet, we work continuously and tirelessly as marketers to continue to push this information out into these networks because we have to, because this is how people buy today. There is also a persistent disconnect between marketing and sales, and there is no easy fix for this because this is not let's add a button here, let's add a button there, let's link someone's tweets inside a CRM, let's give you the ability to send a bulk email from inside a CRM. Those little kind of discrete technical things do not fix this problem. This is a process-driven issue. where we have to start to think about MQLs and SQLs. And these are two acronyms that are going to become very frequently used when describing marketing and sales alignment. A marketing qualified lead versus a sales qualified lead. And the way these systems are really beginning to kind of change how we think about marketing and sales alignment is that marketing is ultimately responsible for a big portion of your sales funnel. And an MQL, a marketing qualified lead, is merely a lead that's been quote-unquote validated and vetted as being, we know who this person is, we know that their email address is real, we know that they are who they say they are, and we know there's been some interaction with us, whether that's opening an email or visiting a website. An SQL is kind of a collaboration between marketing and sales where you try to figure out, okay, at what point has someone had enough interaction that we want to engage a salesperson live with them? And there are certain metrics that we're going to look at, and I'm going to show some of those metrics a little bit later in the presentation about how we determine that. Now again, there's no shortage of tools that we can install inside of Dynamics that allow us to send a bulk email or build a landing page. Lead management, lead to revenue management, true marketing and sales alignment, it goes way beyond simply buttons and tools inside of Dynamics. This is really about what information can we capture about a person's engagement with us, and how can we present that to sales in a way that, number one, they care about the information, meaning it's important enough to them that they can actually use that information in a sales call. So we look at the stages of marketing and sales alignment, the impact this has on CRM. The depth of your integration, the deeper that goes, the more value is derived from the integration of the two systems. And there's really kind of 4 stages of this. There's the adversarial stage where marketing and sales are actually working not necessarily against each other, but they're certainly not on the same page. And oftentimes the blame game comes into play, where if sales is not meeting their goals, they're blaming marketing, saying you're not generating enough leads. On the flip side of that, marketing may be saying, well, sales is not doing a good job following up with the leads that we present to them. The disconnected phase, at least it goes beyond adversarial, and marketing may be doing their thing in their silo, and sales is doing their thing in their silo. This is probably the most common state that we see today. Marketing may have an email tool, they may have constant contact or vertical response or whatever, maybe a landing page tool, maybe they're doing things in social, and those things have absolutely no connection whatsoever to your CRM system. So there's a lot of manual moving data back and forth, which is extremely inefficient. Then there's the integrated stage. This is where, we're moving in the right direction, and we have some integration. Maybe we have the ability to send a bulk email from CRM, or maybe we have the ability to see email opens at a contact or lead entity in Dynamics. But at the end of the day, we haven't kind of hit that true lead management process phase yet. When you're integrated and you're automated, these are where the top performing companies are, and typically they have higher revenue than their peers. They're exceeding goals. They have very good CRM adoption, and by and large, they have a higher volume of what we call SQLs or qualified leads that are going to sales. So Aberdeen Group, this is a graph I've used many times, and it's a great way to think about what is important to put into a CRM system in terms of the data that marketing captures. So Aberdeen has their, the way they do their research is they look at companies and they look at the top performing companies by their group of peers. So if you have a refrigerator maker, they look at the 10 top refrigerator makers out there, and what they're doing is they're looking at revenue performance, who's exceeding goals. And what they find is that the companies in their different spaces that are exceeding their goals, that integrate marketing and sales, this is the data that they're putting in to their CRM systems. And the number one piece of data is web page visits. And let me stop there for a second and point this out. If you think back a few slides when we talk about how people buy, the amount of information we're putting out on the web, if we don't know how somebody is engaging with us through social, through our website, and other channels online, then we simply don't have any visibility into all of these people which may or may not be looking at us. So web page visits, who's coming to our website? Why are they on our website? How did they get there? How often are they coming to our website? That is information that sales cares about. And that's information that both sales and marketing can use in some very interesting and effective ways. So 5 ways marketing automation can help. How can marketing automation help you achieve your revenue goals? How can it help your CRM perform better, improve CRM user adoption? Firstly, we can facilitate the engagement between sales and the self-directed buyers. If we can use marketing automation to identify things like who's on our website, how did they get there, and what did they do when they got there, if we can put that information into the CRM system. So if Kevin Miller comes to my website, browses around a bunch of pages, responds to an email, downloads a PDF, if we could take those pieces of info and put them directly in the lead entity inside of Dynamics and encourage sales to call that person nearest the time when the interaction occurred through an email alert or otherwise, that facilitation of engagement yields very high results. It can help keep CRM free of unqualified suspects and also eliminate lead leakage. And we'll talk briefly on another slide about this notion of lead leakage. It can help keep your CRM free of unqualified suspects because, with systems like SalesFUSION, we have a CRM database ourselves, and that CRM database is connected directly to Microsoft CRM. However, many companies will use the marketing automation database as the staging area, where all the leads are dumped into that, and then they're marketed to until they score up. And then once they score up and become a quote-unquote SQL, then we move them inside of the CRM system, and only then. And that keeps your CRM database smaller, cleaner, and much more efficient. It also allows us to nurture cold to lukewarm leads. One of the most impactful things that a marketing automation system can do when connected to CRM is that we can read changes to database fields. So for example, marketing sends a lead to sales. We send an email alert to the rep. They see the lead come in. They place a couple of calls into the lead. They leave some voicemail messages. This goes on for a week or maybe 2 weeks, etc. And then finally, once they've made enough attempts and the person doesn't respond, what happens? Well, more often than not, that lead just falls by the wayside. That's the lead leakage piece. What marketing automation can do is allow the salesperson to simply change, let's say, the lead status from open or contacted or whatever to nurture, at which case the marketing automation system can see that. And we can see that, oh, okay, we have a lead that we passed, and it's now been flagged as nurture. So marketing will then grab that lead back, so to speak, from the CRM and drop them into some kind of a high-touch nurture campaign over the course of maybe 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. Now, what this does is this then sends alerts back to the salesperson at any point in time during that nurture campaign when that person opens an email, clicks an email, etc. So it's going to then encourage some additional interaction throughout the nurture process, and it may give sales a better shot at getting that person live on the phone. These alerts are very important because, number one, they're real time. So we're telling sales, hey, so-and-so has done this today. They've hit your web page, they've clicked on a link, they've done this. That kind of alerting, number one, gets sales very excited about the lead gen process. It gets them trusting marketing and the work that marketing's doing. It also encourages them to respond in a timely manner at a time when probably the prospect is most interested in speaking to you, when they were either on your website or had some kind of a response. Overall, and I'll definitely show this when we get into the product, is how can we give sales insight into what the buyer interest is before they call the prospect. Arm them with information that a good, smart salesperson can use in a very effective way when they're on the phone with somebody. So firstly, talking about facilitating engagement, website visitor tracking is a technology that's baked inside of the marketing automation app. And how it works is that essentially places a first-party cookie on the machine of the person who either clicks on an email, opens an email, fills out a landing page, etc. What it then does is it allows us to track all of the repetitive visits to the website. These individual actions, whether they're web visits or email clicks, etc., are scored. They're given a value. And then when that value hits a certain threshold, we will then move that lead into CRM as a quote-unquote SQL. We will then send an email alert to the salesperson. Sales can then go in and review the marketing intelligence in the lead or contact entity so they can see everything the prospect did before they pick up the phone. The better information, the real-time nature of it, facilitates and improves the person-to-person engagement. And make no mistake about this. The goal of marketing and a marketing automation system is to put salespeople on the telephone with more leads. It's not to eliminate telephone sales. We actually want to encourage more telephone sales. And I don't know if I have this statistic in this deck or not, but Aberdeen did a subsequent study on marketing automation systems, and what they found was that when used with an inside sales team, the inside salespeople made 8 more live connects on the telephone a day when marketing automation was included. So it's a side effect that most folks may not think about, but we are actually putting you salespeople on the phone more with all this marketing automation and automated nurture campaigns. So keeping CRM clean and eliminating leakage, this is a fantastic way of looking at, firstly, what has been the problem with marketing and sales integration up to this point and how marketing automation fixes it. When you think about the disconnect between marketing and sales, you have to think about it from the perspective of what's marketing's primary objective in the world. Why do they exist? They exist because they want to reach as many people as they can with the message, right? That's reach. And what that means is marketing is going to try and draw as many people as they possibly can to respond to a campaign. Very large number of people. Sales, on the other hand, wants to engage with folks that have a desire to be engaged with, and they want to work to convert, enrich, and retain. It's a much smaller universe of people that marketing's dealing with. Marketing's dealing with a very big universe of people. Sales wants to deal with a very small universe of people. Now, what's happened in the past is, and these are usually where the rudimentary integrations come into play, as a marketer, we send out a campaign to 100,000 people. We get, 2,000 people click and respond. We take those 2,000 people, we throw them into the CRM system, and we create a list out of them. We say, sales, okay, here's your list of respondents. Start making phone calls. And that's a terrible way to integrate marketing and sales, because sales is usually not going to have the bandwidth to be able to sit down and just sequentially go through and make 2,000 phone calls in a timely period. So invariably what they do is they cherry pick. And they cherry pick in the sense that they're going to say, okay, let me scan this quick list. I know this company. I know that company. I know somebody at this company. I think we can do business with that company. And they make those gut feel decisions, which may be right. But what they're doing is they're then leaving the other ones off to fall by the wayside. Now, a certain percentage of that group that marketing has shoved into the CRM system are interested. They may not be interested to the level that, they picked up the phone and called you, or they filled out a sign-up for demo form, but they're interested. And if your sales team doesn't engage with them in a timely manner, it's the old Google adage, your competition's one click away, then they're going to go engage with the company that did proactively engage with them, and leads are going to leak out the bottom of your funnel. We can nurture cold leads. So marketing automation systems are extremely effective at building these automated, high-touch, personalized communications. And one of the easiest things that we do is we set up a system wherein sales can simply change the disposition or the lead status. So if they try and they don't get in touch with somebody, they simply flag the lead. The marketing system picks that change up, drops them into some nurture campaign. But the most important part of this is then the marketing system will watch that lead to see what they do. Are they then clicking on a downstream email, etc.? And if they do those things, then we send an alert back to sales, and then we encourage them to engage with that lead again. More often than not, it's those engagements that end up resulting in demos or meetings, etc. We talked a little bit about this. One of the best things that we can do for a sales group is to set these lead alerts up in a smart way. What we don't want to do is we don't want to inundate leads with 1,000 email alerts every day that someone's on a website, someone's on a website, someone's on a website. That's been done to death with tools like Leadlander, etc., where they just flood sales with these web alerts, which are, nice, but when you start to send a high volume of these lead alerts to sales, they start to lose their impact. So we use lead scoring to ensure that we're only sending those leads that have really had a high number of engagement points over to sales, and we want fewer to go to them initially because we want only the best to go through. Sales will kind of get a taste for it. They'll start to see the value of these alerts, and they're going to start to really get excited about the lead gen process. You see sales and marketing start to kind of talking around the water cooler about new strategies for new leads, and the two just really start to work together as a cohesive unit, all because we do a good job of sending these lead alerts and encouraging that engagement. The insight that we talk about giving to sales, and we're going to show this, is web engagement, email responses, event attendance, forms and surveys, the lead scoring profile itself. What we're trying to do is basically create a total picture of a person's engagement level, their interaction, and their interests up to that point in time. We do that in a way that sales can also digest it. We don't want to send them this big ugly report of click-throughs, etc. And again, we're we're going to kind of get into this and show this. So real quick, I have some screenshots up of Dynamics 13. I also have an instance of 2011 running on my machine, and I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time in both because I'm going to assume some folks on the phone haven't upgraded yet to 13 or may even not have seen it yet. But I do want everybody to at least understand where this stuff exists inside of 13. What we see when we integrate marketing automation into Dynamics is we'll typically create custom entities which get installed inside of the CRM system. And what we're doing is we're basically installing these, and they match up with the marketing interactions. For example, when you're on a record or you come into a lead inside of CRM, so here I'm on my record inside of Dynamics, Kevin Miller, CMO, SalesFUSION. What you see up here are these boxes, and these boxes tell you here are the dialogues or the landing pages, the events someone's attended, the web activity that somebody's had, the campaign emails that somebody's received, and you can click on each one of these boxes and it'll basically show you all the events Kevin's ever attended, all the campaign emails he's ever responded to, etc. So these are kind of placed in the natural location that you should place them inside of Dynamics 13. At the end of the day, complete history of everybody's activity, campaign activity that's been generated up until that point in time. More importantly, though, so we want to give sales insight. This is really what marketing automation and CRM alignment is all about. When I'm on a person's record, and here I've got my record up inside of Dynamics 13, under the, we just call it affectionately enough, the ... button. So when you open up the ... button inside of Dynamics, you'll see a button here called SalesFUSION. And when I click on this button, what comes up is what we call our Marketing Intelligence Dashboard. The Marketing Intelligence Dashboard first presents a screen to the salesperson, which gives you a quick summary of how many web hits has somebody had lifetime, how many email engagements have they had lifetime, how many forms have they completed lifetime. Now these numbers are ridiculously high because it's my record, and I have obviously had a lot of interactions with our own technology over the years. But then what it does is it shows you in a graphical way how engaged somebody is with you on the web. So week in and week out, how many unique engagements does somebody have with us online? These correspond to actual page views or landing page views on your site. So what it's basically telling you is that, okay, this person, now normally this graph isn't going to look like this. Normally you'll have kind of a hit, maybe a gap, and then a hit, and a hit, and a hit. But what it does, it lets you kind of click through these, and you'll then be able to see each and every individual page and in what order somebody looked at them. The second thing we show is email engagements. Now, most of the email tools out there can do this. They'll give you a list of emails that somebody's received, have they opened, have they clicked, etc. We take this a little bit of a step further in that when you're looking at, as a salesperson, the emails that somebody has received and which ones they've opened, you can just kind of click on it, and then you can see the actual content of that email. Now, salespeople will use this very, very frequently because before they pick up the phone and call that prospect, they want to see the content that most interested them. So again, if you're looking at this and say, well, geez, they opened this email 31 times. Clearly there was an interest level, or they passed this email around their organization. So before I call them, I want to know what the content of that email was so that I can discuss that and have an intelligent conversation about that content when I engage with the prospect. Landing pages. It will show you each and every landing page that anybody's ever completed. If you're using a lot of landing pages for white paper downloads, for event registrations, etc., this gives you a picture of what somebody has done. Events. SalesFUSION provides for a complete event management platform. This includes both physical events like trade shows, lunch and learns, etc., as well as online events like webinars. It's really neat integration. It works with WebEx, it works with Citrix, GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, etc. And it allows a rep to actually go in and click on any one of these, and it'll actually even tell you, at least in the case of Citrix, how long somebody was on a webinar for. So it not only tells you which ones have they registered for, which ones have they attended, how long were they in a particular session. So again, it's meant to give the salesperson a complete picture of interest, which events really interested this person. If I'm going to be calling somebody and I know that they've spent an hour in the webinar, The Death of Cold Calling, I probably want to tailor my conversation to that person around this webinar. What we try to do is create a total picture of marketing activity inside of your CRM system. And for SalesFUSION, what that means is we usually put in almost like a dashboard view of web behavior. And that dashboard view will actually show you how many people are hitting my website today, who's filling out forms today, how many leads have been on my website today that are identified and known inside of my CRM system. We answer the critical question, who's on my website? What are they looking at? How did they get there? What are they most interested in? These are the critical questions that the marketing automation system ultimately answers. So let me jump out here a second, run over to my browser, and I want to bring Microsoft Dynamics up. Now, I'm going to bring up 2011 because I suspect there may be more folks who are familiar with this interface than 13. The integration is identical. It's obviously 13. The buttons are in different places because it's a different UI. But let me drill into this a second and show you what a typical kind of day in the life of a salesperson is when they have this technology installed. Firstly, we add some custom entities inside of Dynamics under the SalesFUSION piece here, which is right here on the left-hand nav, and it has Web Forensics. Now, Web Forensics is meant to show you who's on my website. And we do that, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, by adding JavaScript to the emails and the landing pages that go out the door. When somebody interacts with one of those and they click or they open, etc., we place that first-party cookie on their machine, which then allows us to identify to the individual level who's been on my website, how did they get there. We have other pieces in here like email marketing, which essentially allows us to interact with SalesFUSION's email platform and actually build my email campaigns natively inside of Dynamics, or I can build them directly out inside of SalesFUSION. We also allow you to build landing pages in here, and if I wanted to, I can actually go through and do things like build a landing page from scratch inside of Microsoft Dynamics. And that could be as simple as, new landing page. And you can actually walk through the process step by step of creating something like a lead capture page. And we can have a basic contact us form in here. And then we can have templates that are coming over from the SalesFUSION system, which allow us to pick different style sheets for our landing pages. We could do things like choosing what do we want to do with somebody when they complete the form? Do we want to place them into a trigger campaign, etc.? Yes or no? And then choosing the different types of campaigns that we can put them in. So a great number of ways that we interact with our marketing automation system. We make a lot of that information available natively inside of Microsoft Dynamics, where you can drive a big portion of kind of your day in and day out marketing activities this way. Now we want to look at an individual record, so I can kind of drill into some of the things that I was showing you before. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a record, and I'll bring up my record inside of Dynamics. Very important distinction between native and iframe integration. Most of the rudimentary integrations that marketing vendors have with Dynamics are what we call iframe integrations, where you push a button and it launches a view into the marketing system. We do that as well with our dashboard. But one of the unique things about SalesFUSION is we've actually recreated large portions of our app natively inside of Dynamics, and there's actually quite a bit of benefit to be derived from that. For example, we can look at web activity. So web activity is going to look at Kevin Miller's activity. If I click on the web activity entity, it's going to tell you date and time, all the different times Kevin's ever been on the website. And if I were to go and click on one of these, I actually open up an entity called the web activity entity. And it's going to show you everything from the IP address of this person to their location, straight down through the individual pages that they looked at on my website and why. Now, all of this information is stored natively inside of Microsoft, which means we can run analytics, we can run workflow. There's a number of different actions that we can take inside of Microsoft because we put this data natively inside of the system. The same holds true for landing pages, holds true for events that we've attended. All that information goes into native entities inside of Microsoft. And in addition to that, we then have the SalesFUSION button, which when we launch that, brings up, as I was showing you in the PowerPoint portion of this, it brings up the Marketing Intelligence Dashboard. which says the week of December 16th, Kevin Miller looked at 73 pages on my website. I click on that bar, and it basically tells the rep, okay, here's all the pages he looked at. This is how much time he spent on each one of these pages, etc. We talked a little bit about the sent email piece. One of the interesting things about this as well is we can actually show sales, well, what campaigns do you have coming up? And we can simply select one, and then we can add an individual to a campaign right from here. So there's a lot of different actions we can take. There's a lot of quote-unquote levers and buttons we can push for the sales rep. There's a complete menu structure in here which allows them to pick and choose the information they want to see. Most of the time they either start at the recent web activity view or they go into what's called the quick view, which will give a star rating to the lead based on the lead scoring profile, and it will give you a quick summary, 30, 60, 90 days, how much engagement this particular prospect has had. Most of this is ultimately going to be driven by what we call lead scoring. And I'm going to take just a second here, and we're going to get into my production version of the SalesFUSION application because we want to show you where some of this information ultimately comes from the marketing side of the fence. So SalesFUSION is very much a separate application from Microsoft Dynamics. We are our own standalone app. We integrate with Microsoft. We integrate with other CRM systems. Most of the time, a small number of marketers will use our application as their primary app. And our application is a marketing application. It's been built by marketers, for marketers. Marketers tend to prefer to use our app over working inside of Dynamics. Everything they do, all the results of their campaigns, etc., move into Microsoft for sales to use in the ways that we've just described. By and large, though, the marketers are going to want to log in and use the SalesFUSION marketing application because, again, CRM systems are much more focused on sales and service. These type of apps are much more focused around the things that marketers do, and they're simply things that you do inside of our app that you couldn't or wouldn't do inside of a CRM system, like building a webinar or publishing out to social media networks. Inside of the application, like SalesFUSION, we have several key areas that folks work in on a day in and day out basis. So the marketing tab inside of our system is where we build our content, our segments and our lists. It's where we create our emails, our drips, and our nurture campaigns. And nurture campaigns are very popular right now because they're very much kind of a blend between marketing and sales activities. And let me explain what that means. The screen I'm looking at right now is an example of a nurture architect that we built. And essentially what it does, it allows us to send a communication and then make decisions about what to do with a lead based on what actions or inaction they have. So we can go in here and say, well, if somebody received the email and they opened and clicked it within, let's say, a 2-day period, if the answer to that question is yes, then we can choose to take another marketing action, or we can choose to take a CRM or a sales action, such as assigning a task to follow up with this lead to the rep inside of CRM. We can use the system to build and manage landing pages, which I touched on. We can use the system to build and manage events. And then we could track people's individual behavior on our website. The live view of the tracker essentially allows you to go in and identify one of 3 types of visitors. A known visitor is somebody whom we've cookied before. We know who they are, and we can go in and see the detail of a person's activity. And we know this is cover all North America. We know they're in Boynton Beach, Florida. We know they came in via an email campaign. We know they came in and they were on this page for 180 seconds. We can also identify companies. So we have a company here, SecureWorks, Georgia. We don't know who the person is yet because they haven't identified themselves. They haven't filled out a form, but we know the company because we've done a reverse IP append on it. And then we're going to get completely anonymous visitors like this one here, but we do get some SEO data. And in this example, we know that they've searched on a certain set of keywords. So if I bring up the detail, you'll see that they use the keyword, ironically enough, marketing automation for Dynamics to get into our website today. Now, all this information ultimately flows into something we call Lead Analyzer. Lead Analyzer allows us to build profiles of leads. And it allows you to run one or multiple profiles at any given time. In this example, we have basically what we call an MQL SQL model. We have marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads. And we define which is which by looking at their web activity and then ranking individual activities, such as somebody comes to our site and hits our pricing page, we give them points. Or they've been on our site within the last 90 days, or they have hit a total of 5 pages in a single web visit. We combine that, what we call implicit behavior, with more explicit behavior like email click-throughs, landing page completions, event attendance, and then combine that with demographic data, which oftentimes may be coming over from the CRM system. We assign discrete point values to all these individual activities, and then what we do is we will basically roll those up into a value. And we can make a rule that says, well, if somebody achieves a score of 31 or higher points, we're going to call them an SQL, in which case we can then take action against the lead. And the actions are here. We can add them to CRM, add a task, add an opportunity, drop them in a campaign, etc. But this is where that connectivity then occurs, where we start to take some kind of action directly against the lead. That's that connectivity point. That's the point that's really more process-oriented. Folks like IOTAP become very experienced in this software, and they're there to help companies kind of implement these type of processes. They've got deep familiarity with SalesFUSION. They've got deep familiarity with the Microsoft Dynamics. They've implemented these two solutions many, many times over, and they can come in and kind of help a company who's never done this before to really build out that first lead scoring model. This, in my opinion, being in this space since it existed, is the single most important thing a company needs to do when they're looking to integrate marketing and sales, integrate marketing technology with CRM technology, etc. Now, on the high end, then there's a whole host of analytics. I think one of the most powerful things we can get at is a view of how are our leads flowing, right? So we can go into SalesFUSION. We have these great dashboards inside of SalesFUSION, which will say, we have a number of leads that we're pushing over. Here's my SQLs. Here's my MQLs. I've pushed over a certain number of SQLs into sales, and now the report will tell me, well, what is their lead status inside of CRM? This is really powerful because essentially what this is doing is this is telling me that my lead scoring model either works or doesn't work. Because if I push 1,000 leads over into sales, I would expect a fair percentage of those are going to be ranked as interested. What I don't want to see is that the vast majority of them are sitting open, uncalled, or are disqualified. Now this graph is a little goofy because we've got some demo data in it, but then it'll tell you how many opportunities have you generated as a result of the leads we've pushed into sales. And this will tell you the number of opportunities by stages they're in, and then ultimately what it does is it will tell you the revenue that you've generated. So powerful analytics on the revenue side of the fence, and they also cover a variety of different things, such as if I'm running a particular campaign, we can look at a campaign from the perspective of opportunities. If I'm generating a campaign, we actually have the flow that shows you the amount of leads that are responding, how many are turning into ops, how many are converting for revenue, how much revenue has been derived from a particular campaign or group of communications. So very much there's a focus around revenue. And this wouldn't work, this graph doesn't work unless you have communication between the two systems to the opportunity level, which SalesFUSION does, of course. We communicate back and forth with the opportunity entity inside of Dynamics. Ultimately, this is where we want to get to. This is what every marketer wants. This is what every VP of sales wants. More importantly, this is what every CEO of a company wants. This is what every CFO. When a CMO such as myself has to walk into my CEO's office and request additional budget, this is the first thing they're going to ask for. They're going to ask for these numbers. So let me take a pause there for a second. I know we're coming up at the top of the hour. I want to stop and check and see if we have any questions on the floor. In the absence of any questions, I'm going to go ahead and